evening. I'm Larry Souter, and welcome to Stories of Amazing Grace. We're coming to you from Bixler Chapel at the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us online and being a part of our live audience. Theme scripture comes from Romans 8:38 through 39. I am sure that nothing can separate us from God's love, not life or death, not angels or spirits, not the present nor the future, not powers above or powers below. Nothing in all creation can separate us from God's love for us in Christ Jesus our Lord. Tonight's guest is not just a familiar face for our live Stories of Amazing Grace audience, but also a global icon, recognized and celebrated around the world. His name is A.J. Wolf, but you may know him by his other name, and that is Santa Claus. Santa Claus came to us tonight in his summer Santa Holly Davidson motorcycle sleigh, which is parked in the lobby. AJ's story starts out as a sad boy, but it ends with putting cheer in gear as a motorcycle Santa. And you'll meet AJ Wolf, Santa Claus, right after this.
This is Santa Claus telling you Christmas is coming on time like it did for years and years and years. Get your list ready, listen to Mom and Dad, Grandma and Grandpa, and get ready because Christmas will be here, no doubt, because I'm coming.
I love you, Santa. Thank you so much, motorcycle.
Please make welcome A.J. Wolf, otherwise known as Santa Claus.
Thank you, Larry.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, taking the time out of this busy schedule.
Oh.
A little more downtime during the summer, though, I guess.
Yeah. I usually don't show off my knobby knees except when it's 100 degrees. And Santa's not used to 110 degrees.
I understand. We're not either.
But Larry, this is beautiful.
Well,
and thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you. Well, let's start out with maybe some sad things first and then move into some happy things. Can we start with your family background?
Okay. It starts out with a little bit of humor, and then it gets sad, and then it starts, okay?
Okay.
I was born in a small town called Burnville, Pennsylvania, up north. And, of course, it was August. I was born August 9th, 1952. And in that small town back then, they had a doctor that just had like a little Dr. Welby bag. And the doctor that was in town to start with was a veterinarian first. So he went to become a regular doctor. Well, by the time my mom's getting closer to the due date, the doctor that should have been there had to go away, so the veterinarian took over. So my mom called, and she goes, now listen to this name, Dr. Dunkelberger.
Okay.
She said, I think the baby has moved down. It did. He said, well, I'll tell you what you do now. You have any more of them little baby aspirin? Yeah. Break one in half, drink a little water, you should be okay. A couple hours later, it's around midnight, Mom called back and she said, Dr. Dunkelberger, the baby moved down. He goes, okay, take the other half of that aspirin. She did. She dozed off. So did Dr. Dunkelberger. but he had his bag by his bed 3 miles up the road. She called him, and she goes, Dr. Dunkelberger, what do you want me to do now? Take another aspirin? He goes, what's going on? I'm laying in water and the baby's coming. He said, hang on, I'm coming. So he come down to the house. He said when he ran up the stair steps, he heard me screaming already. He thought, oh, it's got to be a little boy. He's going to be something else. Anyway, the next day in the local newspaper, they put in, Dr. Dunkelberger at 3 a.m. this morning delivered a baby wolf. It's the truth.
Very good.
Here I am. After the baby wolf started to grow up, I couldn't figure out why there was so much yelling in our house and more tears and laughter. So anyway, as I kept getting older, playing in the playpen, I heard there was a lot of yelling, and looking back, the noises I heard of smashing, breaking stuff, I knew it wasn't right, and I used to hold on to my crib like this and shake because I was scared. And then I got to be 4, maybe a little older than 4 years old, and my mom and dad, my mother loved us dearly, and my dad loved us kids dearly, but it didn't work for them together. And there was this tremendous argument that led to a fight. And I remember seeing the kitchen table come up in the air and smash into the wall. Well, I ran to a hiding place I found behind the sofa. And I grabbed the hold like this. And I heard things. Now, my dad and uncles were the old German type people from Germany. And I could hear them yelling and carrying on, and all of a sudden, I got so scared from the noise that I put my little head down, and I started saying, please, somebody help me, please. They're going to kill me. And I kept screaming and holding onto the couch, and I put my head against the couch, and I started to scream louder because they were yelling, and all of a sudden, seriously, I went like this. I went, huh. What happened? It started right at the center of my head. And I know at little over 4 years old, you can remember, it was like somebody had turned on a real warm blanket and it went right down over me, slow, but covered everything, clear down to the floor. And I went, my dad went out of the house all upset. My mom had a bloody nose and she was all banged up. And she came over to me and said, honey, come on, it's okay. And I got out from behind a couch and I kept going. She goes, no, honey, come here. I said, had to be somebody back there. I kept looking. She says, come here. I said, Mommy, look at your face again. Why, what'd you do? She said, I bumped my nose on the refrigerator. I said, well, I'll help you. So I used to help her clean up, right? Now, through that, looking back as I got older, I realized what had happened to me. Because in our family back then, you heard that there was a God, couldn't tell where you'd see him or when, and you heard that he had a son named Jesus. And I was taught to always tell the truth, say a good night prayer to Jesus, and that was about it. So, it wasn't long after that, a lady knocked on our door Sunday morning, and she says, hi, I'd like to take him along with 2 other children to a Bible school class. And I said, what's that? And she says, I think you'll love it. We're going to talk about Jesus. I said, I heard about him, but we're going to see him? I didn't know anything. So I go into the Bible school class, and this teacher's standing there, and I'm looking around, and she says, well, we have 3 new children this morning. Let's start with this little girl. What would you like to be when you grow up? She goes, I want to be a nurse like my mommy. That is wonderful. Ask a little boy, what would you like to be? He says, I know, I want to put pipes together like my daddy in houses. She said, is he a plumber? Yes. That is wonderful. She came to me, I didn't get a wonderful. She looked at me and she goes, well, what would you like to be? And I looked at her and I thought, don't lie, tell the truth, be honest. I said, ma'am, I know what I want to do. I said, because what I want to do, everybody that comes in there is happy. And there's a lot of money going over the counter. The other man's really happy, and he always gives us candy. And she says, well, what is this job? I said, I want to be a beer man. And she goes, oh, what? I said, a beer man. She goes, oh, honey. She goes, there's so many other things. I looked at her and I said, I know that look, ma'am, you don't like me now. She goes, no, 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 no. Looking back, the expressions in this lady's face. I said, no, you asked me what I wanted to be, and I told you. And I said, everybody is happy in that place. I said, it's right up here, ma'am. She goes, oh, I know where it is. So she tried to talk me into other stuff, and I looked at her and I almost cried. And she said, look, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I said, that's okay. I said, you know what? If I become a beer man, I guess I just won't ever see you again. And you hurt my feelings, so I'm not coming back anymore. So that was a minor sad time. Now, I know that God's Spirit, I know that He covered me. I know that now. But you know what was really funny? I was told not to lie, tell the truth no matter what. Okay, now watch this. I went in the living room. I looked at my dad, and he's reading his paper. I said, Daddy, when are we going to get some sand from my sandbox? He got me a sandbox. I haven't got no sand. He goes, it'll happen. One of these times we'll get some. I said, Daddy, I love you, but it's been like how many weeks and it never happens. I said, what do you have to do? Now watch this. He said, well, right up here where the sand and stone company is, you got to go up there. Got to put in an order. Place an order, tell them what you want, what it's for, and where you live. I said, anything else? He goes, nope, that usually does it. Well, the next morning I get up, and back then we had little cut-off overhaul things that came up with a snap and shoulder straps. My cousin told me, always put your thumbs in there like this and stand straight. Makes you look like you know business. Here I go, about 4.5, not quite 5. I go trucking up to a 2-lane highway, and I leaned over, and I looked up, and there was a full truckload of stone and sand, and they're getting ready to go. And one driver was talking to the other one on the running board of the truck. And they turned around and goes, hey, what's that kid doing? Hey, stop. That kid's gonna cross the road. Stop him. He goes, wait. And that quick I come across a highway. And he goes, where's your mom and dad? I said, she's busy and Dad's working. But he explained it to me. I come to place an order. I could see those two fight and keep from busting up. And you're going to place an order? I said, yep, and my dad makes a lot of money. He'll go pay you for this. I said, I live right down that alleyway there, about 3 houses down. I said, I need some sand from my sandbox. The guy looked, he goes, He said, tell you what, back the truck down that alley. I know where he lives. And give him a little sand. I said, he looked at me, he said, now you listen up, little fella. He is going to walk you across this highway, and when you get across, you run down and get out of the alley because he's going to be backing down. Wonderful. Here we go. I go running down that alley, and about that time, my mom came out in the back porch. Our backyard was maybe from here to the wall over there. I heard her yelling, honey, where are you? I said, Mommy, it's okay. She goes, what did I tell you about leaving this yard without me? I said, but Mommy, I talked to Daddy, and I went up to I placed an order for sand. And she goes, didn't I tell you not to lie? I said, but Mommy, I did. And they're going to be coming down. She says, get in the house. About that time, she heard, like air brakes. She goes, what's that noise? I said, Mommy, I placed an order. They're coming down. I had enough of this. Okay, I'll get in the house, but they're coming. And by the time I went up on the porch, she goes, what is going on? I said, Mom, they're delivering my sand. You should have saw her face when that truck backed in the backyard. And the little guy looked, he goes, come here, little boy. How much did you want, man? How much did you say? I said, here's my sandbox. I said, I like to have it full. He said, get back. Well, to a little kid, he reached up and pushed this lever, and whoom, a mountain of sand came down. buried my sandbox. And he said, "How's that, sir?" And I said, "I heard about it. This must be saying heaven." My mom says, "Yeah, and your daddy gonna kill me, he gets home. How much do I owe you?" He said, "No, it's on the little guy. We already made arrangements." And they took off. But I noticed after the experience in the house with that warm feeling, looking back, whatever God gave me, whatever he covered me, I had a confidence I didn't know about. Because normally I would have never crossed that street. And I noticed that when I saw strangers that I never met before, I used to go like, because of the violence in the house, I didn't know what to think. And you look at some adults, it's like, I don't know him. After this happened, and I'd see somebody, I'd say, "Hello, sir, how are you?" I had this confidence ever since then, And then later we moved up onto a small farm outside of Burnville where I grew up, and Santa Claus was always a big, big topic in our house. That's one thing. One year I asked my dad, I said, "You're sure he's coming tonight?" He says, "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, Pop, they said in the news we have like 15 inches of snow." He said, "That's when he travels the best." You know what he did for me? I went to bed. Later I found out he opened the window. We had a porch roof come down like this, and his bedroom was right. He took a rake handle and went like this in the snow, and then moved and did another one. And then he took the handle and made like footprints. And I got up, I said, "Dad, Santa was here. You ought to see the living room." He goes, "I know he was. You ought to see he must have come in low." He said he hit the porch down here and bounced up on the roof. And I looked out and I said, "Will I be able to do that someday?" He goes, oh yeah, your time's coming on quick, so get ready. Here I am. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
That's just a little bit, but yeah.
Tell us about coming to Tennessee. It was kind of an escape from your family background. What
Yeah.
are some things that you did? Why did you come to Tennessee to begin with?
Put it this way, between maybe 7 and 8, 9 years old, for some reason, I always loved music, piano and guitar. If someone came on TV and they were playing anything, no matter how many kids were there playing with toys, I'd get up and go over and sit in front of the TV. And I'd stare at that and they'd go, "There's something wrong with that kid." Well, later on, we had horses, and I was about 10 and a half, going on 11 at that time. And I said to my dad, I said, "Dad, you're selling the horses, aren't you?" He said, "We have to. Prices to feed is going up, everything." And nope, we're getting rid of all of them. And I said, "Well, isn't the big brown horse King, his name was, isn't he my horse?" He goes, "You could say that. Will I get the money from the horse sale?" "Yep, it's your horse." Well, a cousin of mine bought the horses from us. And he looked at me and he goes, "I heard you want to buy a guitar." I said, "Yes, sir, I sure would." "What do you want for this old horse, and the saddle, and the blanket, and the bridle?" I said, "I don't know, but I know it's worth a lot of money." He goes, let me see, how about if I give you $130 cold cash? I said, "That's really weird, because the guitar I want is $126. He goes, "There you are, horse is mine." I got my first guitar from Sears. Then the other thing, Larry, led to why I left the area. The high school I went to, half of the population was boys and girls from an orphanage. And I thought I had it rough, so did they. Real rough. And they called each other, "We're the homers." He's a homer, she's a homer, whatever. And in the hallway one day, it got to that point where they were pushing kids and into the lockers and stuff. And kid pushed me into a locker one day and took my lunch money and my candy. And he said, "What are you going to do about it?" I said, "Well, you know what, nothing right now, but we'll have this day again." Do you know what I did? I went to the library and I looked in an Outdoor Life magazine. Guess who I found in the back of that magazine? Charles Atlas. How many here remember Charles Atlas? He was a body exerciser. I had a friend of mine, I said, Albert, that's it. Look at the body on this guy. They're not gonna push him around. My dad likes him, believe it or not. I'm gonna order this. He goes, well, how are you gonna look like him? I said, he wasn't born that way. He says he can explain it. Now, till this day, and I'll be 72 next month, till this day, I still do faithfully push-ups between 2 chairs, like that was in his first program he ever sent me. Between that and then dirt bikes, old dirt bikes that were around the area we got, and motocross. And then...
And you were also a champion with the straight arm curl?
Well, strict arm curl,
All
yeah.
right, let's see a video of
Okay,
that.
sure.
We got a short video.
You got all 3 already. I mean, all 3.
For 3. We're ready if you're ready. Take your time, though.
Come on, brother. Come on. You got this. Come on now. You got this.
Come on, get it.
All right, let's get behind him. Here we go. AJ Wolf, 130 pounds. Come on, man. Let's get him up. Let's get him up. Come on, AJ. Come on. Come on.
Yes!
Good lift. Good lift.
135.
Strong man. Now, you also mentioned about music. I don't know if the people here know that,
I don't know.
but you have an album.
Yeah.
The singer.
Yeah.
Does that look like him? Pretty close.
I had brown hair, no face hair. Look at that.
And one of the songs on here is Rockin' Little Angel. We got about 15 seconds of that.
Rock, rock a little angel. Rock a little angel. Rock a little angel. Come on down and stop teasing me. Come on down and stop teasing me.
That's it. Rock a little angel.
Do you still want to be in the music business?
Part of me does,
Uh-huh.
because it's always been a big part of my life. Ever since I was in my teens, I started writing lyrics and poetry and rhyming stuff. But, you know, when you start out and the only thing my family, and this is not a put down, don't get me wrong, but they were all heavy farmers, right? The only thing they could turn on and off was a radio. So they knew nothing about music, really. You know what I mean, as far as the business end of it. And I remember when I showed that album and a small contract, and the first time was 1986, I had a hit record in Malakoff, France, is where it started. You have a #1 hit. And I think, how could that be possible? But long story, but the man who produced that for me told me he was gonna send it to some of his friends. After I got home, he died 2 weeks later from a heart attack in Nashville. 6 months later, I'm taking care of my dad, now he's getting older, and an envelope came and it said Malakoff, France. I thought, I don't know anybody over there. I opened it, and it was handwritten. It said, Dear Mr. Wolf, we have been searching you for some time. Our good friend Roy Hall has passed away, and we're trying to find you. You have a #1 record on the
Really?
charts, on the listening charts.
Which song was that?
That was the one, The Ways of a Woman in Love. It was an old Johnny Cash song written by Charlie Rich.
The Ways of a Woman in
Yep.
Love.
Yep.
Oh, we should have put that on the...
Yeah, that's okay. Let's start out. You've cut out your dancing and you never see a show. Friends come by to pick you up and you hardly ever go. It seems your head is in the clouds above. You've got the ways of a woman in love. That's what it was.
All right, then.
Yeah. Hey.
But you met a woman here in Tennessee? Or
I did. After I went through much turmoil back there, and I went through a horrible deal with a divorce that I didn't want, and I got away from the area, and I do have 2 beautiful kids up there. And I come down here, and my mother at the time was getting Alzheimer's, so I brought her with me. And I moved down here, and I got a job at the time to hold me over with an armored truck company in Nashville. So therefore, I always had a .38 revolver with me because I did service gas stations for them. And I'm going down the road one day to the armored truck service, and I got so lonely. I'm working on this crime trailer, taking care of my mom, and I just leaned front going down 65 south there toward Nashville. I went like this. I leaned front. My knees were on the steering wheel. I looked up. I said, Dear Lord, I know you can hear me, and you're probably sick of me asking you this, but Lord, I'm lonely. I'm hurting. And I said, do you possibly think that there's a widow out there, maybe someplace, because I am older than, I'm not a teenager anymore. Do you think there's someone out there that could use or loves someone like me? Please, would you please let me know then? I said, I got to drive this car, but thank you, Lord, I love you. Amen. Watch this. Same thing. 2.5 weeks later, my mother is getting worse with Alzheimer's. She would say anything. I said, Mom, I asked the managers, we're going to go into the armored truck service tonight to roll coin for next week, working overtime. But I got to wash my car. I mean, it's, well, we go to the car wash in Hendersonville. And as I pulled up to the bay, I said, Mom, if I stay here and they're all full, all the wind from our sprayer is going to go right in that lady's car. She had 4 doors open, sweeping. Oh, what's that going to matter? I said, Mom, come on. I said, all right, we'll stay here. I get out. When I got out, shut the 1 door, this lady looked at me and she goes, hi. I said, hi, how are you? She goes, nice, beautiful day, huh?
And that was it.
I said, yeah, but something hit. I went around the car, got the other floor mats out. Now watch this, watch this. I kept glancing over. I took 4 quarters out, I laid them on the box at the car wash, all right? Never did I look to make sure that the thing was on off. It was on foam. So this beautiful woman that I've been watching sweep out her car, she goes, have a nice day, I gotta go. I looked at my mom, I said, Mom, quick, I have some brochures in the glove compartment about the crime program. What do you want them for? I said, Mother, this lady's leaving, and I think she's a school teacher because when she had her doors open, there's a lot of books in the back seat. You don't need that. I said, please. Oh, here. I went running up to this lady's car. Jeans, T-shirt, a .38 revolver hanging right here. And when you know who my wife is, she was there, and I said, excuse me. And she goes, she put her glasses down, she goes, puts the window down, she goes, yes, do I know you? Are you? I said, ma'am, I didn't mean to start you, but would you happen to be a school teacher? She goes, yes, are you? I said, oh, no. No. I said, but I have a program for kids to help keep them out of prison. And I just wondered if your school might be interested. Here's some brochures. Really? She shut the car off. We stood there in the front of her car for 45 minutes and talked. Now, in the meantime, I thought, what is that noise? Finally, my mom gets out of the car, little old lady, all bent over. And she got out and looked over, and she goes, hey, you two, do you plan on washing this thing today or next year? I said, Mom, this is Rhonda, and I said, we're just having a nice talk. She goes, well, hello there, whatever. She said, but you got about 4.5 feet of suds over here. Here, all that foam came out. Long story short, when she left, I didn't want to crowd her. But when she left and pulled out, I had a notepad, car, color, the county of the number, and the license plate number. And I said, we'll be seeing each other soon. That's my wife, Rhonda, and I love her to death. That's how we met. Hey, if I can, Larry, there's one quick thing I want to add. Finally, I proposed, she accepted, and we couldn't wait to get married, right? The Church of Christ up in Hendersonville. We went up there, and I came in from work, and it was on a Sunday. And now this is true. Now, remember where I came from, all right? She said, honey, just come to the Hendersonville Church of Christ. I'll be there. It's an evening service. I said, okay, I should be out of there. Larry, I hadn't eaten much all day. And I come rushing into that church, and I looked over. I said, well, there she is. I quick ran over. And the preacher up there, really a southern accent. He goes, well, now let me tell y'all something now. He said, whoever was not here this morning, okay, for the Lord's Supper, after this is over, we'll be still serving the Lord's Supper right through those 2 doors. And I said to Rhonda, what's there, a special occasion or what? The Lord's Supper? She goes, shh, yeah. I said, well, what are they having, like roast beef, mashed potatoes? I never heard of that. I heard of communion. That's the word we heard. There's a thing called communion. And when they said Lord's Supper, I said, what are they having, roast beef? She goes, oh my gosh, honey, we got a lot of work to do. And then when we get married, the preacher, he stood there and he says, okay, look, before I introduce Mr. and Mrs. A.J. Wolf for the first time, this is a fact, and I got to mention this. Their relationship started off very clean. They met at a car wash. That's it, Larry, that's now.
One of the jobs you had in the past was correctional officer, and you started a thing for kids called Crime Busters.
In here, this is a 2 women or a 2-man cell, equipped with table, toilet, sink, bunks. The idea of the program is, I'm just telling students what I know. If I don't know something, I tell them I don't know. I'm just sharing an experience that I think will help a lot of students to draw that line. I just pray to God that it works. Here comes a guy like me and I say, okay, here you go. Put it on, let's go. Get over here and put it on. Now, let's go, put it on. I don't know what your personal belief is. This book is #1 kingpin in the prisons. Inmates will drop to their knees and not just pray for God, they scream for him, no matter what somebody else thinks. And inmates told me, Mr. Wolf, when you get out there, tell the students, there's only one place lower than the prison cell, and that's our grave. I'm putting this hand for God, and Satan's got this foot, and he said, and I'm praying I'm going to make it.
What was the reaction to the high school students?
Well, looking back, some of them I could read their expression like, you for real, man? And then other ones looked at me, and years ago up near Springfield, here in Tennessee, I did a school. And I remember the principal come out to me and he said, before you get started, up in that top row, those 9 up there, we got our hands full. They've already done some overnight prison jail time, and they're heading down the wrong road, and all of their girlfriends are already pregnant. Can you talk to them? I said, I'll try. And I talked to them and told them. And I said, you know what, guys? I said, there's still a lot of time you can start to straighten things out. But I tell you one thing, going to prison is like dying. Do you know why? Because you go alone. No matter who your tough buddies are, no matter who your tough girlfriends are, smoking a joint, drinking, whatever you're doing, it's a tough time, we're cool. But when it gets down to the sentencing, and they say, you have 90 days without probation. You think your buddies here are going with you? No. Your mom and dad? No. You got a guy like me telling you when to get up to eat, when to get in the shower, and when there's activity time. And you know what's unique, Larry? When I held that Bible up, I used to tell them, in a prison on good behavior only, you have activities. You go to the gym, go out in the yard, go to GED class, and Bible study. Do you know that the most popular thing was, no matter how tough they wanted to be, we would hit an intercom switch, because where I work was indirect supervision or indirect touch. We couldn't touch them. We're in a booth. We'd hit an intercom and go, listen up, guys, listen up. 5 minutes, get ready, you got Bible study up. Line up at the door. You'd be surprised how many lined up. And then they'd come walking down, and every now and then, Larry, one would come up like this, he'd hit the door in the control booth, he'd go, yo, Mr. Wolf, man, you come here, man. I said, what's going on? He goes, you know what? I got to get out of here. He said, the chaplain made me cry today. I said, really? I said, you better listen to him. I said, and then I went up. Every couple days we had to shift positions, you know, in the prison. They put me upstairs in the psychiatric unit in the second tier of the prison. This was like 24-hour lockup. And by this time, we probably had 6 boys and 2 girls that were in there for school shootings in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. And I saw him come in there, and I saw these kids crash, scream, cry. And I'm sitting there one day, and there was a spiral staircase going from the second tier to the first tier of the prison. The guy down below, we could talk to each other pretty easy. He yelled to me, "Hey, Wolfie, I got a question for you." I never heard him. He goes, "AJ." Nothing. He come up that spiral staircase and he went, clapped his hands real loud. He goes, "Hey, wait, what are you doing?" And I said, "How long you been there, John?" He goes, "You don't look so good." I said, "John, I just saw something. I can't explain it, but I got to see the chaplain." They relieved me for the day there. I went to see the chaplain. I told him what happened. He said, "AJ, my grandfather was a preacher. My dad was a preacher, and I am. What you saw, in your mind, you were screaming out and said, this is not humanly normal for kids to take guns into school and start killing each other. Please, is there anything anybody can do?" And that's when I didn't black out, but it was like a foggy image. And you know what I saw? How many years ago was that? I saw what you all are seeing today. It showed me like arenas were filled with teenage kids in leg irons, cuffs, belly chains, and jumpsuits. Because all it ever got was talked about how to stop it, but it never got stopped. When I moved to Tennessee and I kept pursuing this program, a guy in Hickory Hollow walked up to me, and he was a chaplain. He says, "I don't want to rain on your parade, but do you have about 30 seconds? I said, "Sure, sir." He goes, "This is pretty powerful." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm trying to get to them before they ever get arrested." "You want me to tell you something? You're about 30 years early." And this was right around 2000. I said, "Well, I saw something one day that if we don't find out a way to hook God and Christ into this problem and get them to believe and understand, we're going to have a mess on our hands." And the time period that was seen when all this was about 30 years from that time, and that was around 1997, 98. Where are we today? What do we have? And I grew up with guns. We all hunted and stuff. And when people ask me, "What do you think of they ought to sign a bill, get these guns out of here?" I said, "You know what? There's one question I asked, especially the younger 7 through 12. I'd say, how many here go into a Walmart store? All of you. How many go to a sporting goods store with somebody? Okay. Can I ask you guys a question? Did you ever walk through a store and you go, oh, over here's sporting goods, they have guns. And did you ever see when you walk past, a door opens by itself and a gun comes out and goes, did you ever see that? No. The gun is harmless until the wrong hand gets it without the right education. Anything can be a weapon. And when you work in a prison, and I got on day shift. I did not want day shift, but that's what they gave me. And I don't have time today, but when I saw the amount of things that inmates make weapons out of, shocking.
And your program did a lot of good. Before we run out of time, let's talk about your Santa sleigh out there, how that come about, your Santa motorcycle.
Okay. Like I said, I'll be 72. It's 10 years ago, a little over. We had a friend of ours, relative of Rhonda's, was in the hospital. He was real sick. Rhonda, being a school teacher, brought the crud home, and I got sick. Not real sick, but I didn't shave for a few weeks. Here come our first little granddaughter in the South, little Henley. She come running in, and she jumped up. She goes, "Hi, Pop-Pop." I said, "Look at you, baby. You're beautiful." She goes, "Pop-Pop, everything you have is white." I said, "You know what it is?" She says, "You're going to let it grow?" And I said, "Yeah, really long." She goes, "That's the wheels are spinning now. If you're going to do that, could you please be my Santa Pop?" I said, "Yep." Well, out there's a result of saying yep. She ran out to my bike, squatted down at the front wheel, and she goes like this. She goes. She went to the back end, and she goes. I said, Henley, you see something, don't you? She goes, shh, almost done. She went back to the front, and she goes, I'm done. She said, Grandpa, I know that you can do this, Papa. You need to turn this, please turn your motorcycle into a reindeer with real high horns and a sleigh so where us kids can get in for pictures. That's it. That's how Santa started. And as you can tell, over the years, I keep adding, making it. And somebody asked me the other day, you going to add to it? I said, I can. I'm out of motorcycle. Where else to go?
We've got some pictures. There's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we have some individual shots here. That's the front end on the left, upper
Yep.
left, correct?
There's a story behind that. You know, one guy at the bike shop, he looked at that little old lady doll, and he goes, hey, James, mechanic, he goes, come here. How well you know this dude? He goes, why? How many guys you see have an old lady doll on the front of the light? So they asked me, and I said, well, Rhonda found that for me a couple years back in a store, and believe it or not, before my mother passed, my mother looked just like that doll. So she bought it, and she used to ride with me. And before she passed away, she said, listen, I already talked to him. I said, really? She goes, yes, I did. And when I'm gone, he said, it's okay if I come down in spirit and ride with you. So I put her on the front end, and she's mounted on a little baby reindeer, and that's Rudolph's nose that flashes on the bike, and there's Mom.
And these stuffed animals, do you give those out, or are they just for looks for the kids?
They're for looks for the kids, and then the display boxes have lights in them. And put it this way, you talk about going overboard a little bit. I was telling somebody out here today that the way you see the bike right now, it took 81 batteries to load that up, AA batteries. When I put the Christmas boxes in, it's almost 90. But it's a rush. I mean, and you know when I talk to the little kids with
we want
this,
to help you out here with something.
okay.
You know, we had some donations in the last couple months for Store Amazing Grace. I found 192 batteries over at Northern Tool.
You did, oh my, look at
You put
this!
on your bike.
Yes! Look at this! Oh my
So
God.
that'll get you by Christmas Eve coming up in 6 months.
What do you think, Rudolph? There, you're gonna light up for a long time. This is what it's all. See that? God, do you see this? He gets the glory for everything I've ever done and ever will do. Because when I'm talking, Larry, this is sweet. When I talk to the kids, especially the ones like between about 3 years old on up to 5.5, be careful what you ask them. They sit here and I'd say, well, do you know why we're celebrating Christmas? And they'll go, yeah, it's all about Jesus. And I said, yes, it is. And I said, you know, they say that Jesus is the reason we have our Christmas day. Now, just a couple months ago, I got up at 2 in the morning, couldn't sleep like normal, and I went out to the bike, and this came to me. It says, Jesus is our Savior, and look what he has done. Every year on Christmas Day, we all have so much fun. So we must always thank him for our fun and play, for Jesus is the reason for our Christmas Day. Jesus is our Savior, and look what he has done. He even sent Santa Claus for lots of extra fun. With gifts and toys piled in his sleigh, now it's time that we all say, ho, 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 thank you, Lord, for our Christmas Day. That's the little song. Thank you, Larry.
What type of comments do you have from children when they see your sleigh and see you?
You know what? I'm thinking back when I was a little kid and I would see something like that. It looks so big to them. And there's some little kids, you know, at a gas station or whatever, they'll say, can we get a picture? And I'll say, yeah, let's put him in the sleigh. And there's one little girl, she wouldn't stop talking the whole time. Her mom had her. We put her in the sleigh. Now, when you sit on that thing and you look up, the horns are like into the ceiling. And the one little girl, she goes, and I said, you know what you want for Christmas? Her mother says, she hasn't been that quiet since she was born. I said, honey, you okay? It's Santa Claus. Uh-huh. Do you know what you want for Christmas? She goes, Mommy, are we at the North Pole now? So you see how that impact it has on them. Now at a red light, I get impact looks too from other people. Do I have enough time to tell you something about when Rhonda and I are on the highway?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay. We're on an interstate not that far from here. And it's a pitch black night, and it was 3 days before Christmas. We went to see some families. We're coming down the interstate, and I looked up ahead, and it looked to be about maybe 3/4 mile up ahead. The highway went down and went back up. And I'm talking, it's dark. And I'm cruising along there, and all of a sudden I looked in the back as I got near the next exit ramp, and I hear, wow, 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 wow. And I looked and I thought, oh, he must be wanting somebody, so I started to pull off. He started to pull off. He wants me. And then he sounded like this. I can't do it like he did it. He goes, please pull over at the next exit. Don't forget the next exit. I'm thinking, he's in a bad mood. So I pull over, and Rhonda got in front of me, and she pulled over and stopped. So I got like side saddle on the bike, and all I tell you was a state trooper. And he's not getting out, and after a while he gets out, and I'm thinking, oh man, he didn't sound happy. He come walking up, but he stayed a distance from the bike. And he looked over at me, he goes, hey Santa, I love what you're doing, can we talk? I said, okay. Here what it was, we only have a short time. I put LED lights on the horns at the top, and they were different colors, and I had several blue ones on each side. I didn't know, and when they were on a flash sequence from a distance, he thought it was another unit. So he pulled me over, and when he walked up to the sleigh, he goes, listen, I said, are you okay, sir? He goes, yeah. I said, well, you sounded like you were mad at me. He said, I talked loud because you had a helmet on. I think you'd hear me. And he said, these lights up here, I'm sorry, but the blue, I said, I'll turn them off and I can change that. He got up to the sleigh, and he goes, oh my gosh. I said, well, sir, do you have any children? He goes, yeah. Little ones? He goes, yeah. I said, well, we put them right in the sleigh here. We have a little seatbelt, and you can take pictures. He looked it over, and he goes, man, I'm a Scrooge, aren't I? I said, no, sir, you're doing your job. No, no, no. And then after we talked a little bit, right, he took a couple pictures and stuff, and I gave him a business card, and he goes, oh my gosh. He said, that's Mrs. Claus, I assume, in that car. I said, yeah. He said, oh, how long have we been talking? I'm sorry, do you think she's okay? I said, no, sir, by now, she's a nervous person. She had 3 heart attacks, 2 strokes, and 3 sets of diarrhea. She's probably up there going like this. So he said to me, please tell her I'm so sorry. He said, I'm an idiot. And he walked away. But that's some of the response we get on the highway.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you all very much.
In the year 1897, 8-year-old Virginia O'Hannon wrote a letter to the Sun newspaper in New York asking, is there a Santa Claus? The newspaper's response to Virginia appeared on the editorial page, and in part it said, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist, and you know they abound and give to our life its highest beauty and joy. Nobody sees Santa Claus, but that is no sign there is no Santa Claus. The most real things in the world are those that neither children nor men can see. And I might add that Santa Claus is not in the Bible, but there are a couple of scriptures that highlight his attributes and characteristics. In 2 Corinthians 4:18, there is far more here than meets the eye. The things we see now are here today, gone tomorrow, but the things we can't see will last forever. And then in 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, the last verse, and now these 3 things remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these.
You know,
love.
Larry, to help in ending with this, I always do explain to the children, depending on their ages, I said, look, you're going to have trouble, you're going to have sad times. And I said, remember, now some of your lists are not 3 or 4 items. They're like, 10, 15 things. And I said, now, Christmas morning, if you open all your gifts and you didn't get something you really wanted, no sadness. Tell your mom and dad when they get a chance to write it down what you didn't get and put it on next year's list. And I said, and don't you forget this. Jesus, right, is the reason for the season. God's Son, Jesus Christ, died for us, okay? No matter what we do, we can have all the fun on this earth we can have. But guess what? He gets all the glory, and don't you forget that.
Thank you for telling your story.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for being with us, and take time this week to share your story of amazing grace with someone. And thank you for being with us in our live audience. We'll see you next month on Stories of Amazing Grace. Thank you, Santa.
Thank you. This is great.